All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of season 2 of the Afflatus. Today's episode is special because I had the opportunity to closely observe the making of this leader. Dinesh Juneja is the founder of Emporiom Digital, which is an integrated services firm helping brands build compelling stories using a mix of design, digital, and technology. Dinesh was my classmate for 3 years at NMIMS in Mumbai, where we studied accounting and finance. In this episode, Dinesh talks about being a self taught entrepreneur, expanding his business overseas, and his admiration for the leadership qualities of MS Dhoni. Welcome to the show, Dinesh.
Thank you, Alok.
Great. So, what's your story?
Well, I started quite early in my life, and I call myself a storyteller. I was 19 years of age, and my father asked me, "Where do you want to go when you reach Mumbai?" I had just gotten into my graduation. I said, "I want to go to IIT Bombay." And the reason was because my father was always persuading me to be a part of that institution for its grandeur and for what it stands. So I thought, why don't I go and see what the institution is like and what do they offer? I ended up being there for an entrepreneurship summit, and this was way back in 2009. And I had no idea why that was being organized. It also spelled out a term called entrepreneurship, and I couldn't pronounce it properly back then. And I said, why not? Let me just try and see what it offers. I went in, and that particular day, whatever I saw, whatever I heard, it changed my life forever. I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug because I was amongst some very successful and well known entrepreneurs from across technology, finance, marketing. And they talked about their life, their hardships, the kind of issues that they faced while they were doing all of this and, won over it. And once I came out of it, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to build my own business. And at that point in time, digital social websites were all catching up in India. And I thought that was a good lead on for me to get into. So I started my firm at the age of 19, and I've been working on it ever since. And thankfully, now we are across India and the US.
That's great. And certainly, I think, every entrepreneur has a way uh, of embracing the idea of entrepreneurship. And for me, it was kind of like, well, I grew up around entrepreneurs. So for me, it was normal to um, understand how the idea of business works. For most people who do not come from that kind of background, they always have an interesting story of stumbling into it, and I think yours is equally fascinating. So how did your education play a role in helping you develop a career?
Firstly, I got educated across different institutions. My father was in a moving job, so I have traveled to, I think, about 8 to 10 states, and I have changed more than 10 schools in my life. So, education for me had a very, transfiguring role always. And also, from a definition, I feel education has got a lot to do with everything that happens around you during those ages. So, right from gaining knowledge to sitting in a classroom to understanding how to take inputs to dealing with people and the environment around you, you're learning a lot of things, and all of that come together to maybe formulate what we call today as education. So I think what those initial years did for me was build a stepping stone in making me confident as an individual and helping me communicate better as to what I was thinking. In terms of my study career, I feel English played a very big role in the way I communicated when I built my business, how I was able to capture my clientele. I use maths really less often because I'm not very good at it. So maths actually helped me possibly in terms of basic maths, addition, subtraction, and you could say unitary method helped me a lot to figure out the taxes. But whatever I did in my 11th and 12th, whether it was taking up business studies or accounting, somewhere or the other, all of that has helped me understand the value of business that I bring together. The first time I actually saw my own balance sheet, I was able to comprehend a few things that I had read then. I understood what asset liabilities meant. I had a background of it. And these backgrounds, Alok, they make such a big difference to adding confidence to you. Because when you're put in unknown territory and you're suddenly to face a demon, you do not know what your weapons are going to be. And somehow education builds that backing for you to be able to take on the world and to realize that you would be able to succeed in all of that. So right from getting my first client to winning a debate to possibly going on to building these multiple setups across geographies, my education has played an immense role in bringing all of this together.
And I think the way you encapsulate it is very wonderful, because I relate to everything that you have said, that education certainly plays a key role in how you stand out in your business and how you approach it. But as you might remember,
Right.
because we went to same undergrad, is that when I was when I was put in an uncomfortable situation, which was at an MIMS, I didn't know how to handle that, because for a very long time I was struggling with how do I connect with people, or how do I share my ideas. And it was more the fear of um, how people will look at me, and that shows in my undergrad GPA, which is 2.7. But even with that low GPA, being in the presence of people like you and other students that were in the class, who were taking a proactive role in class participation and other organizational activities at the school, be it clubs or other initiatives, I think that really gave me an understanding of how you can make a comprehensive use of education. And that is something in which I really kind of look up to you, in a way that you have really sort of um, led the front in terms of creating these new initiatives. And that was really aspirational while I was there, because I never did any of those things or was ever a part of it. But it was something that gave me a lot of understanding of you can really choose to stand out if you know how to maximize your resources. And I think that's something that you've really inspired me with.
Absolutely, Alok. Thank you so much for your kind words. And I recall what my father says always when you say all of those points. He always says, there is always a right time for everybody. But the interesting thing is, the right time is always different. So for you, there was a right time which came later in terms of how you transcended your career. For me, it came in a bit early. For some people, it comes in maybe at 30, 40, maybe at 70 as well. I mean, who can forget the DLF story? Somebody who is retired from the army ends up building a tycoon of a business at that age, and puts it together in the way. I think that's the beauty of life. And in all of this, you would realize that whatever we studied together in the school or in college, or even in our post graduation for some of the people, it has played a background role in building the formidable base for them, wherever they have gone. I remember Steve Jobs talking about how he loved calligraphy as a kid, and how then when he wanted to build Apple, the first thing that he thought of, if he wanted to make it beautiful, it should have something that could allow that kind of a feature to be there. So again, education played such a big role in how it formulated what we call as a genius today. And what a beautiful understanding to life.
Precisely. And I would say that your father is a man of wise words, and that is something that I'll really keep at the back of my mind going forward. What's your definition of happiness?
It's a very interesting question. I think happiness is about being at peace with yourself and your surroundings. You know, the day you realize that whatever is with you today is what it is, and you are okay with it, you will be happy. It has got nothing to do with what you can be, how much of it should you have, and when should you have it. I think people do get confused with it, and they start correlating it with success and milestones and all of that. It's not like happiness is not going to happen if all of that happens, but it also should not be a case scenario where all of this is only going to lead you to happiness. Right? So the journey is something that also has to be enjoyed, has to be realized. Every moment that you are in has to be revered, and you have to be thankful for what you have today. The world that we are in, look at all of us, we are at home, We are struggling to keep up with our usual lives of going out, having a beer with a friend, going out for a movie with our families. But the important thing is that we are alive. We are breathing every day. We are doing this podcast right now. And if we have that gratefulness at the end of it and we are at peace with it, we make merry with it, I think we'll be happy. So I directly correlate happiness to a day to day working, to an every moment working. And I try and focus on whatever is around me and try and see how it is influencing me in a good way so that I could also be happy.
Once you love the process of doing whatever you are doing, you will put your heart and soul into it, and that will be reflected in the final product. And when people see that, that's when they begin to associate themselves with the brand or a product or a service. And that, I think, makes a lot of difference. That kind of dedication and passion that people see in serving them, I think, goes a long way, rather than just having a more functional product or a cheaper product. So I think, yeah, that the way you mentioned it, I think it's really wonderful. And there's something interesting
True.
that I mentioned about your company. It's called Emporium Marketing Private Limited. So talk to me a little bit about how did you come up with the name?
So Emporio means a showroom of services in Spanish. And when we started building the company, we wanted to be a one stop shop for whoever comes to us. We realized that there were many companies that were only doing, say, design, only doing digital, some were technology specialists, but there was no one stop shop that was catering to certain industries. And hence, that vision ended up building Emporio for us. Emporio over the last 6 years has been our quotient of happiness, I would say. It is a baby that was born out of just an idea of wanting to build this, and we have seen it through very tough times initially. First 3 years were having us, be hand to mouth literally for clients, for business understandings. And that is where I think, Alok, I realized the importance of persistence. Because let me be honest with you, whatever we were doing back then, there is not much difference to what I am doing today, except for the fact that I'm possibly more open to learning or to feedback, maybe a couple of things here there. But I was putting in the same amount of hard work, effort that I am doing today. But sometimes I feel that, life has its own, curves, and you have to learn to just stick with them. And as soon as you start to think in the right direction, have that mindset, and you keep going behind it, times changed. And for us, that happened in our third year. That was in, I think, 2016, and we really started to take off. And since then, it's been a wonderful journey. We have a beautiful family of people across Noida in India, in Hyderabad. We have a technology base. We have a base in Pennsylvania, and we are also planning to start up something in Canada. All of this has happened majorly because of the right kind of people coming in at the right time and offering to support Emporium in its vision. So it's not been me, or it's not been my partner Aditi only. It's been our entire team. Some people who joined us even when we were just 3 people or 4 people, had a small office, not even maybe 100, 200 square feet. I think that small an office. Some people joined us then and are still with us today when we've moved into a larger setup and space.
That's great. Okay, so how have the people around you, like your friends and family, inspired or influenced you?
Let me put it this way. I think families support you, and friends and acquaintances and people that you interact with a lot of times in my life have inspired me. Let me start with my family, because being a young entrepreneur, I think when I came back and told my father, who was a government servant for 36 years, that I wanted to start up, my father was not at all discouraging to the idea. And just to understand somebody's mindset, who comes from a services background, this is a world that is entirely on the other side, right? These people have been used to living a life where they get a fixed salary, and they are committed to doing something for an organization. For them to understand what I mean to say, in my head, was a very difficult experience, but my father took it with a smile, and he was very supportive to it. My mother, like all mothers, I think, is a ball of love and warmth. So she only looked at my emotional standing while I was thinking of all of it, and she became my strength on those sides. So while my father became the person who would support me with an angle of life, my mother would be my strength when it came to my heart. So that ways, both of them, were really looking forward to seeing how I build things. And with that, my girlfriend and now my wife, she was very, very encouraging to what I wanted to do. Rather, I think she believed a lot in me, just like my parents, and I was a bit taken aback by that entire feeling, because when I told them, I was myself very underconfident. Alok, I was contemplating whether this is the right move or not, and there were too many thoughts in my head. But these people actually propelled me to consider this very actively and see it through. That also persisted in my friends. I have a very close knit of friends in my life. I have 5 or 7 of them that I have from school and college. Some of them I'm sure you also know very well. They stood by me. They supported me with clients, with guidance, with support wherever I needed. And then there are a set of people in my life, like you. There is a person in my life, who was with me in college, called Deepak. There is Saranj. There's so many people that I can think of as friends who have also inspired me to follow what I want to do and to continue with my passion, because those guys, you, all of you are continuously doing that at your end, right? So whenever I talk to people within this network, I get a sense of rejuvenation. I get a sense of energy again. I get to learn something new, and every time I speak to them, they would leave me with one or two lessons. So I think family, friends, my outer circle, all of them have contributed immensely, continue to contribute largely to whatever I do. And as a person, also, I feel I'm very observant about things. So when people tell me something and people of value do that, I do take it to very close to my heart and my mind. And hence, that has actually played a very big role to make me who I am today.
I told this to Payal, which is our mutual friend, when I had her on podcast.
Yes.
That when I was uh, when I was in college with you guys, I always wanted to be like Payal or Kritika or Inish or you. And when she said like, no, no, what are you talking about? You have come so far along that now I want to be like you. So it's like, yeah, as you were mentioning a bit earlier, that that kind of progress or growth that I was looking for, that happened a bit later for me. But it's good to see that now when I talk to you or my other friends from college, that I kind of continue to make a difference in you guys' life in some form or the other. And I think that's really
Right.
um very that's a good feeling for me to know that, okay, people who I looked up to now kind of like also look at me in the sense that they like what I do and they think that it's good. So I think that really goes a long way. But yeah, I think certainly that support system is really important, more so for entrepreneurs, because they are trying to juggle so many things at the same time. It's vital that we surround ourselves with these people. So that's wonderful. How would you say is your leadership style different than others?
Because I'm a self-learned man, Alok, there was nobody to teach me, right? I mean, when I started out, I was too young, and people knew that I run a company. So whenever I would ask for help from, maybe client side people, or maybe somebody whom I knew in another agency, they would be a bit apprehensive about sharing things. So I learned a lot of things by doing, and hence I allow people who work with me to do what they are doing. I leave them to figure out their own leadership skill and style right from the word go. I do not believe that if you are new, It means that you would only be trained, or it's only the fact that you'd be groomed. And I see this world to be a place where everybody could learn from each other. And hence, I let them be. I do not impose myself on them. I rather ask them, what is your style of working? How do you this problem statement? How do you want to solve it? Do you know who is going to be impacted with it? Do you see how the story is going to unfold in the long stead? I just leave them with these picket of questions that I have figured out over the years out of my experience, and I let them try whatever they are doing. In that process, my realization has been that people transform themselves, people get inspired of their own selves, and they tend to realize that, oh my goodness, I'm good at this. I could do this better. And they start to take a sense of accountability. And because we were talking about Emporium some time back, I remember a story of this person called Ankita, who is a part of my team even today. When she joined us, she was not very confident of what she was wanting to do. She had been around for maybe 3 4 years, but she had been figuring life. And I remember her interview, and she said, I'm going to come to you for every question possible, and I would need answers. And that was her call. Um today, and I'm so proud of the fact, I do not even possibly talk to her every day, or neither does my partner Aditi possibly, because Ankita has built her own leadership style and skill, and she manages a team of people under her, all because of the fact that we let her be. We let her do things the way she wanted them to. We only helped her at certain places. So, this is something that I feel is a unique style. And I heard somebody from Vedanta, I think the founder, Mr. Agarwal, he was saying this at one of the conferences that I attended. He said, I believe in the power of ignorance. By ignorance, he meant that I let people do what they want to, and I do not trouble them again and again. I do not interfere with their work. And I believe that with my power of ignoring what they are doing, I'm also empowering them to do something more. So I see myself fitting that light. And I feel that a lot of people are not able to do it when they're running companies, because they get to carried away, they get to control freaking about what they want out of it. And that's something that I have worked upon a lot, and I continue to do so. That's possibly also the reason why we've been able to expand to multiple geographies at a faster rate. It's not that straightforward being a bootstrapped company to be able to do that. And I hope I can hone that skill further on in my life.
The way you describe your leadership style, it is quite reflective of how you approach business, and it kind of resonates with people around you. When I was studying at Harvard Business School, there's a professor who is also a historian. She traces various personalities from different points in history and says that how they emerge stronger leader in the times of crisis. And she wrote a book called Forged in Crisis. And at the book launch event of her book, she essentially said this quote that has stayed with me till date. She said, when you are trying to build a company,
Yeah,
you should hire people for attitude and train them for skills.
absolutely.
And she said, right. Yeah. So, I mean, she said that there is no way you will be able to find someone who is like 100% fit in your job
Very
description. But if you hire them for attitude, where they know how to hold themselves and lead people in difficult situations, then skills is something that, along with time, people will get better at it. And then they will use that for the betterment of the overall organization. And I think that really kind of made a difference because initially in the early days of my
Mhm.
company, it would be hard to kind of pull together resources and bring together a team, because as many people as there are to kind of work in media, at some point you still have to kind of make a certain investment to get a
Yeah.
credible product. And that is something that I was not sure if I'll be able to put in the early stages, but fortunately somehow we pulled it together, and things worked out. But then I found that, okay, trying to look for someone who is completely in sync with your understanding of how to move forward is actually not a good thing to do. If you have people with different points of view, then collectively you can come up with something that you yourself didn't know you could do in the
Wonderful.
beginning. So uh, I think, yeah, the way you say that you delegate authority to people and the ownership of the work that they do gives them the freedom to explore different things. And as you said, they then, create their own leadership style and manage people under that. So I think that's a really good example. And I hope that people listening to this take a leaf out of your approach and become more proactive on that front. So, okay, let me ask you a fun question
Sure.
now. When was the last time you tried something for the first time?
I tried something today morning. I tried to draw something, and I was actually very bad at it since school. I was possibly one of the kids who used to get C minus, and also the kid who used to make an apple which used to look like a mango. So I was that bad at drawing. But my wife is a very good painter, so I said, okay, why not? Why shouldn't I try? So she helped me with some referencing and some watercolors, and I scribbled through my drawing for about 1.5 hours. And I must tell you that with all the experience and learning that I've had in these years, I still continue to suck at it big time. And my drawing didn't look good at all, frankly. But yeah, I just did it out of boredom, I would say, because I thought, it's been quite a while being at home, and I did not know what more to do. I'm done with everything that I like: reading, music, TV, documentaries, speaking to people. And somehow it's been a month now, so I thought, why not try my hands at something like that and see how I do. So yeah, that was the latest today morning.
What kind of impact would you like to see your work have on people?
More than my own work, I think the work that we do as an organization, I would want people to remember it with this example. Let's say that after, say, maybe 10 or 15 years, I'm walking down a road, and there are a bunch of maybe youngsters standing together in a huddle, and they are possibly discussing something on an application. And while I walk past them, one is telling the other, hey, do you see how beautifully this has been done? How beautifully the video comes about? Or how beautifully does the application play? Or wonderfully executed? Or, this is something that made a lot of impact on me when I saw it. Any kind of exclamatory words that possibly exist, of hope, of excitement, of passion, I could possibly hear from that group come through. um, and when I walk up to them and I possibly ask them what they are looking at, they are possibly looking at something that we developed for somebody or we owned. And without a word, I just want to smile at them. I want to know, why did they like it? What did they enjoy about it? And with that sense of satisfaction, I want to walk away from it. you know so that's what I want, to leave with people: a long lasting impression, some happy faces, some excitement, some thoughts that possibly spark the idea of life to them in whatever way possible, through our client work, through our own work, through what we depict through our videos, or whatever we do as a group, and have the ability to be able to detach myself from it and move away, because I truly believe that people who build businesses or own empires should are only most empowered when they are capable of walking away from them. And the best example that I can think of is of MS Dhoni, who was the famous cricketer. I still remember, all of them playing Test cricket in Australia, and the series going on in India, not doing that well. And somehow, out of all that effort that this guy had put in so many years, this guy decided to walk away from it. This guy also decided to walk away from his captaincy when he was speaking on it, when he realized that it was important for somebody else to come in and start grooming the team for the World Cup. And these are not easy things to do, Alok. So my inspiration is from people like these, and possibly that is how I see my work influence others.
I remember that feeling when there was this post in some group where the moderator was asking that please suggest some of the good podcasts that we can
Mm.
listen to. And one of my friends suggested the name of this
Oh,
podcast.
wow.
And that was without me prompting them in any way or suggesting them that you should put the name out there. And that was a uh, feeling of happiness, the kind of which I've never felt before, because without me trying to stimulate this conversation in any way, I have a person who I know who suggested the name, probably because either they relate with the content or the guest. And that person was not, one of the guests for them to say that, okay, this is my episode on this show, so please listen to it. It was another friend from a different walk of life. And so when she did that, I was really touched by it. And that's when I kind of understood the power of storytelling, that it kind of facilitates the conversation, it begins dialogue, and it kind of brings people together through a common interest or passion. And that's one of the moments where I felt that, okay, this is something that I really want to pursue, because not only it is something that is bringing me happiness by sharing all these stories of people, but it's also making a difference when people listen to it and try to implement some of those things in their life. So I know the
Mm.
feeling that you're talking about. And I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, because the dedication and the passion through which you pursue your efforts, it's reflected in everything you do. So I think it's only a matter of time. And also I think you give a good example of MS Dhoni, because um, he is someone who is very much aware of what's in the interest of the team. And if he feels that him stepping down in the role of captaincy means the overall good for the team, then he's more than happy to do that. And I think uh, as much criticism as he gets for his wicket keeping or captaincy or whatever, very few people are able to understand the thinking behind these
True.
decisions. And I think that's what separates good leadership from bad leadership. That brings us to the last question. What's next? What are the exciting ideas or projects that you're working on, and what can the listeners expect from you going ahead?
Very curiously looking at how our organization could contribute to COVID based, problem solving. So we have a technology division. We also write a lot of content for our clients, and somehow this entire transition has moved us to think about whether we could come up with something for ourselves and project it to the world, which could be helpful. And I was going through the internet and I found a website which also puts out different COVID related initiatives that are helping the world. And we were going through them as a team and trying to see how we could get inspired from them and what we could bring to use. So that's something that we are actively pursuing right now, trying to see whether we could build something for the healthcare space, or we could do something for mental health, because people are going through a very tough time across the world. And hence we would want to contribute, and passionately so that's immediately something that we have on our minds. With that, I think we are also looking to get into talking to people a lot more about what we do. For the last 5 or 6 years since we were doing it, we were very focused on just getting to our work, fulfilling it, getting to our clients, meeting their requirements. And Alok, I must thank you for the fact that this is the first time I've actually come on a show or on a presence, and I have spoken about what we have been doing. So it's a movement towards that direction, and we would want to pursue it a lot more, and show to people that an organization is not driven just by the number of people that it has, but the value or the vision that it brings. So that's a second effort that we are working towards very actively. With that, we are focusing on trying to see how we could build our global story. We've been in India for a while. We've just had 1 year in the US, and we are also trying to move to Canada and have a base there. So it'll be interesting to see how we are able to collaborate and bring together this story from across geographies and see how we could transcend ourselves through that. By the way, we are also known as the storytellers because narration scripting is a possibility across marketing or design or even technology work for that matter. And what we realize is that brands a lot of times struggle to create impacting stories for themselves, and users only understand those. They don't understand jargon, they don't understand complicated word usage. So that story is something that we would want to see transcend across countries, and possibly that is something that we're going to actively work towards. So these 3 4 things are going to keep us extremely busy, but we are pursuing our happiness goals while doing all of this. And we hope to see Emporium become a boutique but global enterprise with what it does.
I think that's really amazing, Dinesh, because right now, doing anything that helps people who are on the front lines and making sure that we continue to receive healthcare and
Yes.
food and other basic necessities, I think is a step in right direction. And I feel it's a collective responsibility of everyone else to support these people because they are not thinking about their safety and showing up to work every day, working long hours, even with or without equipment, which is really commendable because they are trying to save other people's life while risking themselves. So I think it's great that you are thinking along those lines and making a difference over there. And I agree that a lot of brands sometimes have difficulty articulating the things that they're doing or the projects that they're working on. And in fact, I was watching this interview by Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astrophysicist, but is also the host of a show on Nat
Right.
Geo called Cosmos. And he has been very successful in simplifying the science or the astrophysics and making it more accessible to people through his books and podcasts and his public speaking engagements. And wrote him an email once saying that if you were my science teacher, then I would have certainly become, something along the lines of scientist or astrophysicist. And someone from his team got back saying that the Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson appreciates your comments and please continue to kind of show your love and involvement for everything science. And I think that's where I realized that again, science is like equations and theorems and complicated theories, but if you can break it down to the level that everyone can understand, then that makes a huge difference. And that's what I kind of try strive to do with brands that I work with, that I understand the essence of what they're doing and then put it together in a podcast form so that it's accessible to people across geographies and age groups. So I think yeah, what you are doing is wonderful. And I'm glad that in a very small way I'm giving you this platform to share your ideas, and I certainly hope that it inspires more people to work along those lines. So yeah, I think a lot of wonderful things for you in the pipeline. And
Same here,
it
Alok.
was great having you on the show. And I hope all your projects become successful and
Thank you,
achieve
Alok.
everything in
Wishing
your
you the
life.
same, and so glad to meet another storyteller who is pursuing something actually very complementary to what we do. And you're doing a wonderful job with your podcast and what you're thinking. I was so glad to be connected with you again and to know of all of it. And I truly wish you good health, success, and happiness with whatever you intend to do.
Thank you so much.